Have you ever given the signal, explained what comes next, explained it twice, and then you look around and someone's still wandering, someone's asking their neighbor what they're even supposed to be doing, and someone is very carefully packing up their entire desk, and all you asked them to do was to put away their math book. And this happens every single day. So if you've ever wondered whether that's a behavior problem, whether they're being careless or defiant or just not listening, I want to offer you a different explanation because it almost always has nothing to do with attitude. In this video, I'm going to walk you through why classroom transitions are genuinely hard for a developing brain. What's actually happening cognitively the moment a routine shifts, and exactly how to build a transition routine that reduces that difficulty over time. The signal, the countdown, and the explicit teaching that makes it stick. So here's the short version. A transition asks a student's brain to do 4 things at the same time. The brain is telling the child to stop what they're doing, to hold new instructions in working memory, shift attention, and start the next task with no preparation time and no anchor points to hold on to. That is a lot to ask of a brain that's still under construction. So most transition chaos isn't a discipline problem, it's a cognitive logjam. And once you see it that way, everything about how you respond changes because you understand. So here's why this one is worth slowing down on. When we read transition chaos as attitude, we respond with more reminders, more repeating, more standing at the door saying the same explanation or sentence for the 4th time. And it doesn't work because repetition adds more to the pile they're already trying to carry. You end up more tired and frustrated. They end up more lost and nobody's wrong exactly because you're both just solving the wrong problem. So let's break down what's actually going on at that moment. First, as I said, a student has to stop. So that's inhibition, the skill of interrupting something you're already doing. I know that's hard for me. I don't know about any of you. Then they have to hold the new instruction in their head long enough to actually act on it. That's the working memory part. And there are different parts of brain for different types of memory. At the same time, they're shifting their attention from what they're doing to what's next. And then, only then, can they actually start. And then they have to start. Stop, remember, shift, start. Having practiced, maybe without any visual supports, without maybe any review, each time until it is solid and automatic. It's like learning to drive a car at the very beginning. These are core executive function skills, and they are genuinely still under construction throughout the elementary years for all kids, and even more so for many of your neurodiverse students. So without something predictable to anchor this to the start of the transition, kids don't even have a map. They're being asked to do 4 demanding things simultaneously with no scaffold underneath them holding it all together. That's why transitions, not traditions, fall apart. It is rarely defiance. It's cognitive overwhelm, looking for somewhere to land. So repeating the direction doesn't lighten the load, it adds to it. Now a student has to hold the original instruction and the repeat while still trying to stop what they're doing in the first place. A consistent signal will always do more than a repeated sentence. So I want to tell you about a Friday morning that showed me exactly what this looks like when it's working. Now, my class spent half an hour with another grade 2 class. My students had their STEM kits out and ready to go. And this was great fun. The other class didn't have any STEM kits, so they loved coming in. But the visiting class didn't know our routines. They hadn't built the same community we had. So the moment they walked in, my own students stepped into a leadership role without me even asking them to, and honestly, without them even realizing that they'd done it. So here's what I noticed. I stood at the front door, or front of the room, and I raised my hand, which was our consistent signal for attention. Here, consistent signal. My students responded quickly and quietly. Their calm, their response time communicated something to the other students and teacher that was visiting without me saying a single word. When it was cleanup time, I gave the signal, and my students walked their visiting peers through exactly what came next, with their words and with their actions. The visiting students weren't behind, they weren't poorly behaved, they simply hadn't been taught what mine had. Consistently, repeatedly, over months. That moment only existed because of the work that came before it. Now, it doesn't take months to get the transitions into place, but over months we do have to review them from time to time. So, back to what's actually happening cognitively. That calm you just saw or heard about wasn't luck, and it wasn't about my students being naturally easier. It was a signal taught consistently until it stopped requiring effort to follow. And that's the whole point of a transition routine. It isn't there to control the room. It's there to take 4 demanding cognitive tasks and turn them into 1 predictable habit. So students have cognitive energy left over for the thing you actually want them to do, which is learn. So here's how to build one. It doesn't need to be complicated. Simplicity is actually what makes it work. So the first thing is to choose 1 signal and to commit to it completely. Mine is a raised hand. I hate shouting all the shouted ones. It's a raised hand, but you can use a bell, a phrase. The signal matters less than your consistency with it. Students need to be able to predict when this happens. A transition is starting. They just know to fall into that transition. Use it every time, no exceptions. Second, add a countdown. We're moving on in 2 minutes. It isn't just a heads up, it's a scaffold. It gives the brain time to start disengaging before what you're actually demanding of them arrives. Third, teach the before, during, and after explicitly. What does the last 30 seconds of the activity look like? What happens during the transition itself? What does arriving at the next task look like? Walk through it, model it, name it. Don't assume they'll figure it out by watching you once. And fourth, practice rather than repeat. If a transition goes sideways, walk back through it, not as a consequence, as instruction. Okay guys, let's start that again. Is teaching, not punishment. Okay guys, back to your desks. We're gonna practice walking slowly again. Thank you, that's excellent. Here's something worth thinking about. Sometimes teachers wonder, once transitions start running smoothly, am I being too rigid? Is this actually about control? So it's worth asking, honestly. But a class that moves calmly through transitions has more time for learning, more energy for real engagement, and more room in their heads for the work that matters. They are learning organization, independence, personal and social responsibility, and the list truly goes on and on and on. So teaching them that is not control, it's giving them life skills that they'll take with them throughout their lives, honestly. That calm isn't a performance of obedience. It's a resource for them because of all they've learned, and for you because they start to carry the classroom. It is what changes in the classroom so it can operate without you directing every single moment. It's the beginning of not going home exhausted every single night. So this connects to more than 1 pillar of my Calm Classroom framework. It builds classroom community because students who move through transitions confidently become the reference point for classmates who are still finding their footing, exactly like mine did that Friday morning. It builds a growth mindset as they realize that they can do this. For some kids, that might be the biggest achievement they have in the year, is knowing that they got through the transitions and nobody had to correct them or stop them or at them. So executive functioning is not one of my pillars, but highly relevant here because working memory, inhibition, and attention shifting aren't just tested during transitions. They're practiced every time the routine runs. And this protects your energy because a classroom that transitions predictably isn't one where you're spending yourself managing what the routine should already be taking care of. So if your transitions are still messy, that's okay. That's the starting point, not a sign that you're doing something wrong. Pick one transition, the one that happens every day at the same point in your schedule. Morning routines is a good example. Build one signal around it. Teach it explicitly. Use it every single time. Give it 2 to 3 weeks before you add anything else. It won't be perfect right away. It's not supposed to be. What looks effortless in November was actually carefully taught in September. So if you want the full breakdown, the questions teacher has asked most, and what to do when a transition routine still isn't sticking, the blog post for this video is linked in the description. And if today's video did connect with you, I've also got a companion piece on the mistake most teachers make with routines generally. Once the steps are taught, but the why they never quite land. That one's linked below too. So I've also linked, last thing, the Calm Classroom Foundations Guide, which is a free download. If you want to see how all of this fits together into my bigger system, and it gives you a few hints about how to get started. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.